Hi everyone, and welcome to Vlogmas. I have a longer video coming and I have to edit it where I talk about my update on life after teaching, and I listened to a video on how the best countries in the world are doing. And so in this video, I just want to talk about, from a teacher's perspective, why more money will not fix our education system. And I want to talk about why other education systems in the world do better than ours on the PISA rankings. And I think this is something that we need to talk about, because people are so misinformed about why wealthier schools or people in wealthier schools are doing better than kids in poor schools, and why are these poor countries or smaller countries than the United States doing better than our country when we have all these resources. And people want to blame it on racism and inequity and all this other stuff. But as a teacher, I can tell you that there are multiple things going on here. So the PISA rankings rank math, science, and reading, English comprehension. And the United States is very far down the list, along with the UK. The countries that do well on those tests and are considered the best educated countries in the world tend to be smaller countries, and they tend to be homogenous. And this is my first point. When I moved to Korea, one of the things that I noticed first and foremost, and like their education system, because I was a teacher there, is that it's very homogenous, which means that everyone has the same culture. Everyone kind of has the same ethics and beliefs. So because it's a nation, and so they have this sort of, most people, I shouldn't say everyone, most people believe that education is important. Most people value their education. Most people believe that education is their way to success. Versus the United States, where we have a population of people from all walks of life. We also have people who do not speak the native language here. So listen, okay, I went to multiple schools in Korea. I talked to a bunch of teachers. Nobody in Korean schools doesn't speak Korean. Not one single kid in Korean schools does not speak Korean. So if you contrast that with the United States, where we have people coming in whose first language is not English, who are not even fluent in English, and we're trying to teach them, of course we're going to struggle with test results. Now, this is not an excuse, because I actually taught, I don't know if you guys know this, but I taught English as a second language. I have students that came to me not speaking Spanish and then went on to do very well in college, in high school, and in college, okay, and received degrees. Like, I could teach them English, but I understand that that has an impact on how well a country is going to do on some of these global tests. If we're testing every student, we have people from all walks of life with varying beliefs about education. We have a whole group of people saying that college doesn't matter. We have a whole group of people saying your education in the United States, you can just be an entrepreneur. Why don't you go into real estate? Go do something else. Versus what they point out is that those countries who do well on the PISA test are countries who are like, they preach to their kids that this is the way that you get out of poverty. This is the way. You make sure you know your reading, writing, arithmetic, and science. You make sure. And so we used to be a country that kind of valued education and formal education from the government. We valued that. The countries that still value that are the countries that are doing well. The countries who are not, for better or worse, are the countries who are doing poorly. Now, do I think that doing poorly on PISA means that you're not going to be successful? No. I firmly believe that one of the hallmarks of our country that makes us great is that we do have creativity. And because we have creativity, we have entrepreneurship, we have economic opportunities. Other countries don't have that. Other countries are not as capitalist based as we are. So if you have ingenuity in the United States, you work hard, you absolutely can get somewhere without college. Now, that's the benefit of living in the United States. That's the benefit of being a part of this economic system. But when we talk about, rankings globally and so forth, we are ranked lower than everyone else. And so people think, well, we've got to throw money. And one of the reasons why they think we have to throw money at these people at the schools is because they see that schools in wealthier neighborhoods do better than schools, in the poor neighborhoods. And I have worked with athletes from all walks of life now and students, and I will tell you this, that more money will not fix our education system. Let me explain to you what is happening. The kids who are doing well in those wealthy areas, it's not necessarily because the teachers are better. Maybe the teachers are better because they're getting paid more, but I can tell you there's some really terrible teachers being paid well, right? But what I've come to find out is that these kids are going to a place called Russian School of Math for their math homework. We teach Common Core in California, and most people don't agree with it. Most parents struggle with it. They can't, it's not standard traditional math. So these kids tell me, Coach Joe, I spend 2 hours every Saturday at Russian School of Math. You know what they're doing at Russian School of Math? They're memorizing their multiplication tables. They're memorizing their division, their addition, the subtraction tables up to 10, 12, 14, whatever. They are repeating algebraic formulas and problems, memorizing them and completing them multiple times in a row. 2 hours of this, 2 hours of straight, if you will, teaching to the test. This is something that we despise in the United States. The problem with despising teaching to the test is that we end up not teaching what we're supposed to teach. Of course you teach to a test. We know what's ironic to me is like the MCAT. You go to an MCAT class so that you can be taught to the test. LSAT. Y'all will go to an LSAT class to be taught to the test. Y'all will go to an SAT class to be taught to the test. So it's not that teaching to the test is the problem, because other countries teach to the test. The problem is that we're not seeing results as a result of teaching to the test, which brings me to my next point, which is how complex the education system is in the United States. Because we have varying values in the United States, we are not all going to give the same effort and the same sort of dedication that maybe in a different population you will see. And that's not to say that everyone has the same mindset, but when your country on the whole has decided that poverty is no longer something that they're willing to tolerate and that they want to pull themselves by their proverbial bootstraps, so to speak, then you get a large number of students who care about their work, and you get a large number of families who care about their teachers. When I lived in Korea, people bowed to me when they found out that I was a teacher. In the United States, you're seen as a glorified babysitter. I mean, I had attorneys and car salesmen and counselors trying to tell me how to do my job as a teacher. That is something that would never happen in some of these other countries, because the profession is valued. Your teaching profession is something that people, parents, families value. There's a very strong connection to the teachers. That is not something that we have in the United States. So to ask a teacher who is not valued, who is degraded, and a lot of times degraded at home by the parents, to ask that teacher to then go above and beyond while I still have to parent your child because you will not do it, because you will not discipline your child, because you will not teach them emotional intelligence, because you will not teach them how to regulate their emotions, because you will not teach them and support them at home. And I get it. Everybody can't be home all the time. That's a different issue. But the point is that we're trying to simplify this down to money, and it really is a societal concern. The money does not fix the fact that teachers do not have the capacity to be a nanny, a counselor, a math teacher, a mediator, a nutritionist. People are like, why didn't we learn this in nutrition in school? A tax, attorney, a tax professional. Why would we pay people to be disrespected, experts in their field, to be disrespected by students? Why would we do that? It's not a wise decision as a country. And, one thing that always bothers me is like when people are like, oh, this should have been taught in school. Your child doesn't want to learn. A lot of these kids do not want to learn. So you're trying to throw money at people who don't want to learn. That is futile. The root issue is that, particularly in California, we have thrown money at students, but we have not given them the social skills. Parents, communities, families have not given them the skills to thrive. And here's the thing, another point that I want to make about the difference between our country and other countries. There is an unspoken set of rules in other countries. There is a culture in other countries, as I said before, that values and respects education. In the United States, and particularly in California, we want it to be okay that children are disrespectful. We really do. Well, did you deserve it? Were you respectful back to the kid? That, you guys, that would never happen in Korea. Never. Never. It would never happen. And you know what's funny? When I was teaching, I used to say, would you say that to your teacher back home? Because I was teaching English as a second language. So I had kids from Vietnam, Thailand, Taiwan, China, Korea, El Salvador, Guatemala. And I would say, would you do that back home? No, miss, I wouldn't. Okay, and cut that foolishness out in my classroom. So you can say what you want, you guys can do, but the bottom line is money is not going to fix our education system. That is not the problem. We are facing a global collapse, a national collapse, because we as a nation do not have a culture that values education. We want our education to look a certain way, but that certain way doesn't give us the results. Right? Again, you go to these rote, especially at the younger levels, rote. And people spend hours and hours, and then they go to tutoring, and then they do this. It's something that's valued. So we really need to stop saying that we need more money in the education system. We don't. In fact, we don't need any more regulation. We don't need any more. The Department of Education has its benefits, but it also has massive drawbacks. If you're spending billions of dollars on personnel, and I'm not talking about the federal Department of Education, I'm talking about the state Department of Education and the county Department of Education. If we are spending billions of dollars on personnel in those areas, and then want to say, well, we need more money. No, if you want to spend more money, take the money from those organizations. Then we can talk about spending money. Then we can talk about, do we need more money? But we are paying bureaucrats to do what exactly? People are like, oh, well, we need them because what about the kids who have disabilities? That's going to work itself out. We have laws in place for that. The majority of our students cannot read and write at grade level. Money's not going to fix that. More Department of Education is not going to fix that. More regulations, not going to fix that. Society as a whole has to get on board with revaluing education. And as a Black woman, it actually makes me so sad when I hear people say oh, well, you don't need a college education. That might be true for your people, but for us, we actually do need a college education. We are trying to still build up our community. And you know what populations are not saying we don't need a college education? Most of the Indian culture, most of the Asian culture, most of the Jewish culture, they're not saying we don't need education. We don't need a college education. They're getting degrees in the right areas and using that education. Do I think education is absurdly expensive? Absolutely. I do. 100%. Do I think that people should just go to state schools and get an education? 100%. Do I think people should just go to community college for 2 years and then go? 100%. But I would never say you don't need a college education. Because that is still, and this is what the other nations are doing, that is still a way to predict economic success. Exceptions do not make the rules. And I will stand by that 1,000%. Anyway, you guys, that's my little rant on how money will not fix education. If you guys have comments, if you guys are teachers, let me know what you think. Of course, as I always say, you can disagree, but you cannot be disrespectful. I am going to head out and go sit by the beach, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.